Welcome to today's episode of Wellness Wednesday. I'm Dr. Katherine Y. Brown, your host. Today, I am excited to introduce you to our guest, Allison Plattsmier. Welcome, Allison.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Let me tell you now, I know you personally, and you are everywhere doing everything. So I dare not just read off a bio. Rather, I want people to hear it from you. Tell us about Allison.
Wow. So I do quite a few things in Nashville. I'm a Nashville native, one of the unicorns. Grew up over in West Nashville, where the Nashville West Shopping Center is now. And have known that I wanted to work in nonprofits since I was really young. And so currently I serve as executive director of Edgell Neighborhood Partnership. We're a local grassroots organization dedicated to inspiring justice and equity for our neighbors and uplifting their voices. And so we focus primarily on food security, affordable housing, and youth empowerment. I also do consulting for small grassroots nonprofits, so helping them with fundraising strategy, board development, strategic planning, and grant writing. Grant writing is definitely the one people reach out to me about the most. And then also just have passion projects, like I host the Community Impact Hour on Radio Free Nashville, highlighting other nonprofits in the Middle Tennessee community. And I've helped with TEDx in the past, like getting Katherine a TEDx as well. And so, just always looking for opportunities to engage the community.
Oh my goodness. And for our viewers, I just want you to know that was like a brief overview of everything that Allison does, because you do so much more than that. And shout out to you for your work with TEDx Women. You brought something together in such a powerful way that many people could not have imagined how powerful it was. So you were the storm, quiet storm, making everything happen. But shout out to you for all that you do. And if I can just say, you did something even more amazing during a pandemic, right?
Oh, yeah.
Baby, you didn't tell us that.
Yes, so I'm also a mom to two young children. I have a 3.5-year-old. His name is Quinton. And then I had Karina. She'll be 11 months this week. So super exciting.
11 months already?
I know. Yeah, time is flying.
Oh, my goodness. Well, here is my question. As a mother, how did you manage your self-care during a pandemic, and also being pregnant during a pandemic?
Oh, I mean, it's something that I'm constantly continuing to work on. I think as moms and as somebody in like a profession where, you're trying to help others all the time, I think it is hard to want to put yourself first, because people ask me like what I do for fun, and what I used to always do is volunteer. Like even my fun things were like just going out and like being around people and helping people kind of achieve their dreams. And so those are things that still like bring me joy, but I think that sometimes makes it hard to figure out like where the boundaries are, because there's so much like bleeding through between like the things that I get personal fulfillment from and things that I get professional fulfillment from. I will say it's been interesting. Because of COVID, we didn't get to go on vacation when I wanted to we didn't want to travel with both of the kids right now. And so for the last week, I've been doing, 10 days, I've been doing a staycation where I've just been doing all of the self-care things. So I've been trying like different alternative therapies. I've done like Reiki, mud therapy, salt therapy, reflexology, and just really thinking like, what are some things that I can start incorporating into like my daily habits that allow me to kind of carve out some of that time. So I've been thinking, okay, how do I block out time for like nutrition and meal prep? How do I block out time for the gym? How do I block out time for reading? Like things like that always go on the back burner for me. I've kind of figured out, if I'm not doing these things like daily, I'm really not like operating at my best self. And then that's a detriment to, my kids and the people that I'm trying to serve as well. So.
Absolutely. Allison, for our viewers, I want to go back to something that you said, because it really resonates with me. your free time and your hobbies were really built around serving other people. That is the story for so many women and community leaders. How did you get to this point of transition where you're now learning to focus on Allison? And it really, as you talked about all the different things, you're trying out new things and learning what works for you. How did you get to that point? Is it because of the COVID-19 pandemic? Share for us a little more about that.
Yeah, I think it's definitely been a journey that was inspired by the pandemic. So because of my nonprofit journey, I've always been working in very small nonprofits where kind of the work never stops, right? Like I'm doing all of the things. I'm the fundraiser, I'm the program person, I'm the back office manager, I'm the bookkeeper. And so it can be really difficult because you feel like you just have to keep going and keep going. And it's really hard to put boundaries in place too, because you're like, if you try to say, no, I'm going to stop at 5 p.m., you could possibly lose a grant or you could lose a funder, and then there's your job, right? So it's like very deeply tied to that. But I realized like compassion fatigue was a significant thing, like especially when the pandemic started. We were on the front lines, so we're helping people with the free store, so people are coming to us for food. They're coming to us after they've lost a job, if they're potentially on the brink of like eviction, and we're trying to help people through like some of the most like difficult times of their lives, and that can like really weigh on you emotionally. And so I just realized like I'm pouring all of this into other people, but I don't have anything like left to pour. Like there's nobody pouring into me. And so who's going to be like that person? And so I think we can get a bit of a, I don't know, martyr complex of like, oh no, I'm just here to, help everyone. And it's totally fine if I sacrifice myself in that, in the pursuit of that goal. But it really isn't. You realize you get to a certain point where there's burnout and your mental health is draining, and then you just realize like I'm just kind of a shell of like who I was before, and like how do we get back to that. I also think a lot of people realized during the pandemic, unfortunately, like how disposable they are. It's like you're sitting there pouring all of yourself into like your work and all of the people you're serving, and they could just get rid of you like in a second. And so what do you have if you've given everything to that? What are your, if you don't have yourself at the end of the day, if you don't have like your mental health and your physical health, because you've given it all to this company that could potentially, just get rid of you, then what will you have? And so I think the pandemic allowed me to kind of reprioritize that and say, at the end of the day, all I'm going to have is myself and my family. And so how can I prioritize that?
Absolutely. So how did you keep all of those companies afloat because companies were closing down, and you serve a lot of nonprofits that didn't have money. So how did you keep all of those things in the air? I saw you do it, right? Because I follow you on social media. But for those people who don't know you, is there any insight that you could give them in terms of what that looked like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it is figuring out how to streamline operations. So not only am I really good at like fundraising, but I'm really good at helping people to go through their budget and say, this really isn't serving us, or we're spending this and we could find a better way to do it. Like, using things like TechSoup, or using like Taproot to get pro bono help, or using AmeriCorps members. Like there are ways to help like streamline operations down and but still have the ability to build capacity. And so a lot of it was like working with the organizations to say, okay, we're in crisis mode. What are the line items that like we can live without this year? And how do we get over that like fight, flight, or freeze mentality? So like a lot of nonprofits, I think at the beginning thought, well, we'll just buckle down and wait it out. And then they realized like, oh, like this is going to be for the long haul. And so some of them, canceled their special event, and that's how they bring in all of their money for the year. Or they weren't sure if they wanted to write a grant because they didn't feel like they were like the highest necessity, like arts and education nonprofits were like, oh no, human services need to take priority, so I won't even put my hat in the bucket. And so a lot of it was coaching clients about like, no, like you're still just as valuable despite the circumstances, and here's how you can paint your story in a way that makes sense for, you know, the external culture that we're living in. So I would say it was a mix of kind of helping them figure out their narrative and like diversify their revenue, and then also like how do we kind of cut down the expenses to weather the storm. A lot of organizations really think through, they're just always in survival mode. I know Edge Hill Neighborhood Partnership, like this is one thing that we've been working on, is that it was really just this kind of like 50,000 a year every year. You know, we do what we can, but there was just no like strategy for growth. And so, you know, I came in last April and grew the organization from 120,000 to 370,000. And we went from a team of just me and one part-time contractor to now 9 members. And so, you know, that's the capability that you have when you're strategic about like what your goals are and how you can like optimize your resources to achieve that.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So we've learned so many different things about you and what you're doing and what you've done. What are you most excited about? What's next for Allison?
Yeah, so I mean, something that I'm really passionate about is like figuring out how to like mobilize our nonprofit sector. So I know a lot of people may not know context wise, but we have so many nonprofits. Like we have 1,800 just in the Middle Tennessee community. And I believe the last time I did a study about it, 75% of those were under 50,000. Yeah. And so, but we have like these really big problems, like, you know, the childcare crisis, the opioid epidemic, homelessness, and food security. And so how can we kind of make these organizations that are smaller and struggling to kind of reach that sustainability point, learn how to partner together and possibly collaborate to grow together and be able to make more of an impact on these big problems that we're facing. And so like we've been trying that out with Edge Hill over the last year, is like, how can we consolidate some of these administrative costs? So for instance, like a lot of small nonprofits, you know, they'll raise their first 50,000 and then they'll say, I need to hire an executive director, but they'll want to hire an executive director at like 30,000 and they're not going to get somebody that's very qualified for that. So then they spend all of that money on this ED that kind of doesn't really know what they're doing. And then they're back to square one, and they kind of just repeat that cycle every time. And so what we've done is say, okay, can you kind of cost share on one ED across multiple organizations until you reach that sustainability point, and then you can kind of break off on your own. And so we've been doing like common paymaster agreements and saying, okay, let's consolidate insurance, let's consolidate some staff, and continue to pursue our missions together until we've kind of reached that point of sustainability. And it helps with, you know, communicating impact to funders, and it helps with stretching the dollars further as far as the type of impact that you're doing in the community. So I think that's my, you know, ultimate hope in the next 5 to 10 years, is that more nonprofits start doing that and really focusing on like, how can we achieve what we're trying to do in a more impactful way?
First of all, that's brilliant, because it sounds like it serves 2 purposes. It benefits, well, 3. It benefits the nonprofits so that they can stay, get stability and continue to do the work. It benefits those stakeholders and community members that they serve. And it also benefits those qualified and talented executive directors and other leaders who otherwise might be offered compensation that's less than what they're really worth, right? And so if they're not being compensated for what they're worth, there's going to be a higher turnover anyway, because they can't pay their bills. Mm-hmm. But what you're doing is brilliant, because it serves everyone. And if a ED is that qualified, right, they can successfully help to lead all those nonprofits in a measurable way. So bravo. So how do people find out how to reach you, your work? Just please like share all of hashtags, handles, websites. I want, because the one thing I'll say that's different is that you're always a person that we can measure what you do, because there's always evidence. And some people say that they find grants and funding and all the things, but you actually have a track record and you've got certifications and credentials and awards. And I do want all of our viewers nationally and hopefully those internationally who watch this, and it will be archived, I want them to know how to contact you, because there are some great organizations, Allison. They really do need help, but they don't know how to survive, and we want to help them. So please share.
Yeah, thank you so much. So yeah, you can definitely find me on LinkedIn, Allison Quintanilla Plattsmier. It's a big mouthful, but Quintanilla Plattsmier. I'm on Facebook and Twitter at AQP Consulting. I believe Instagram is AQP Nonprofit Consulting. And then if you want to learn more about EdChill, we're edchillpartnership.org and EdChill Neighborhood Partnership across all platforms. Actually, I think Twitter might be EdChill Partners. So yeah, I'm excited to, talk to anyone that needs help. One thing that I really pride myself on is being able to work with any type of nonprofit. So I do sliding fee scale because I don't want any organization to not be able to afford services to get to where they need to go. So I'm happy to work with any organization on budget and talk about collaboration if there's overlap with the work we're doing at ENP. And also, if you want to text, I also text 615-533-3986 or AllisonQ.Plattsmier@gmail.com. So.
Listen, there's no reason for you not to reach Allison, because she's giving you social media handles, telephone, email, everything. So thank you for your work, for your service, and for your commitment to this community. We truly appreciate you. And I hope that this is not the last time we have you on Wellness Wednesday, because we're going to definitely follow your journey, and we're going to share all of those handles under the video below.
Thank you so much, Katherine.
Oh, you're welcome. And for our viewers around the world, please share this message with other people, repost it, do everything you need to do, because there's someone in your network that needs to know Allison. Until next time, I am Dr. Katherine Y. Brown, your host, and this has been your episode of Wellness Wednesday. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.